Hello, my name is Anastasia Worth, and for Rec 3202 for my hobby laser project, I did rock climbing. For the historical project perspective, rock climbing arose out of Victorian mountaineering in the Alps, and it wasn't recognized as a sport until the last quarter of the 19th century. Early climbing adventures included scaling cliffs to launch surprise attacks on enemies, quests for spiritual reasons, and pure enjoyment, but rock climbing as a sport was born on Mont Blanc. When climbing first began, the goal was to reach the peak, and many climbers did so by using ladders and grappling hooks and devices that they used for storming castles, and it wasn't until much later that they developed actual rock climbing uses and created indoor rock climbing and bouldering. While rock climbing was seen as a very masculine thing to do, women were written off as candidates, and they were wanted to live up to the Victorian ideal. However, there are many first records of female climbers such as Miss Parmenter and Mary Paradis, who had both climbed the Alps. And as they began to rock climb, many other women started to rock climb and shed their dresses and began to wear trousers, and that became the norm as well. Currently, there are so many female climbers out there, also in the UK as well as the United States and around the world. I was only able to bring up certain statistics about this, but from my own experience, there were so many climbers, about 50% of the population at City Beach, Fremont, which is where I climbed, that a lot of them were women, and a lot of them were very good, somewhat even better than the men sometimes. Rock climbing is seen as male-dominated because throughout the many cultures and different ages, women were always seen as the weaker sex because of their biological differences from men. They had narrower and smaller shoulders and broader pelvic girdles, and simple activities that we take for granted, such as running and throwing and striking, were seen as more difficult for women and also a threat to their fertility, and they didn't want women participating in these activities. They also didn't want women to have stronger muscles because that demonstrated that they were lower class, and it meant that they had to work for a living, and they didn't want that for their women. They wanted their women to have a pale face and small frames in order to increase their femininity and be more desirable for men. Parents may also have a huge deal in the way they raise their children, so that they typically enroll their male and female children into activities that are gender oriented. So women mainly are geared towards ballet and gymnastics, while boys are geared towards male dominated activities, and rock climbing being one of them. There's also many criticisms of women participating in male-dominated sports because it's seen as a threat to traditional gender roles, and we have to uphold the myth of female frailty, and it brought out very unladylike behavior and masculine appearance. In my own experience, I found that many of the climbers at the gym that I worked at was female, and there's a different whole emotional dynamic to women as opposed to men, because in general, women may take more cautious steps in their climbing techniques, while men are more daring, and that's just a general overlook. There's some men are also, as stated in the article that I mentioned, that they don't want to climb with a woman who's better than they are, because it's a kind of a threat to their masculinity, and I definitely experienced that while I was there. The hardest hardest challenges that I faced in this was that just finding the time to participate and get to the gym during open hours while I work 4 jobs, and retraining my muscles and getting over being sore and taking care of my body so that I don't pull muscles out or hurt myself. Then there's the psychological issues that I face. I'm afraid of heights, so I had to deal with that. I also had to deal with being very competitive when I see other climbers doing better than I am, and more, they're more experienced obviously, but it's just, you feel more jealous when you see other people better than you at something that you want to exceed in. Many of the routes are geared towards people who are of average height, and I'm 5'1", so there's also that problem solving and strategy that I had to use, as well as physical limitations that I had to figure out what worked for me. But despite all these challenges, I would definitely continue to rock climb, and it was just so amazing to see the results, both physically and psychologically, and I love it. I love the sport. The new insights I found were that people tend to think rock climbing has a lot of brute arm strength, and I don't think it necessarily does. It requires a lot of leg work and footwork, as you depend, your legs are stronger than your arms, so you depend more on your legs and feet in the sport than your arms. So I don't think that's necessarily true that men are better at it because they have bigger muscles, because it's not definitely true. There's many pictures that I added and videos into this, and you can pause this recording at any point in order to take a better look. There's pictures of me stretching out, as well as video day blogs of day one when I explain my tools that I use when rock climbing, as well as my feelings towards it on the first day of trying it out. There's a tutorial that I used from my two friends who I rock climbed with. Both are very experienced, and they explain how to do a figure eight knot and flex and top rope, and how to prepare yourself basically. There's many pictures of me bouldering, which is when you're only going about 12 to 16 feet off, so you don't need a harness or rope, and that's why you see mats on the floor in order to prevent me from getting hurt. And usually, as you'll see in the second picture, there's someone behind me reaching out their arms just in case I fall to push me forward so I don't fall back.
It's gotta be like real world stars.
Look at any of these pictures up close. And there's videos as well of me bouldering. And that's also just finishing routes and going up as far as I can and leading only one kilometer at a time. There's videos of me, depending on some of the top roping, which is when you're going up to 30, 40, 50 feet.
Hopefully I will gain some reality experience
and those are most challenging for me as I'm afraid of heights.
and lose some weight.
I faced a lot of injuries. Only 2 were listed because I couldn't take pictures of my sore muscles, obviously. But the first picture I posted was a picture of a bruise that I had on my knee. And it didn't go away until 3 weeks later, and I was limping for about a week. It was very painful, but it also was just a great battle scar for myself. My second picture is when I broke skin for the first time. There were many other broken skin that took place, but you can see a flap of my skin is open on my finger, and I'm very proud of that battle scar. I use a lot of Works Cited, as in personal interviews, articles online about rock climbing, or the history of rock climbing, statistics that I found, and resources that we used in class. And I really hope that you enjoy my project. I hope that you learn something about rock climbing, and will probably, hopefully, test it out yourself and, try it for yourself. It's definitely a great activity to do.